Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm Cam.
I'm Priya. This is Milo.
This is Milo, if you're watching the video.
Our child is always asleep.
He doesn't say much.
He used to. Do you remember podcasting when he was a puppy?
Yeah.
That was a mess anyways.
Yeah. He used to whine a lot.
He used to whine, and we used to have to put him, like, he couldn't sit still.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know why that was. I think it was just his, like, puppiness.
Yeah, he was a puppy.
Yeah.
He just kept doing, like, puppy stuff. Like, he was, like, tick, 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 everywhere. He was just everywhere.
No, but I remember a few times we had to, like, fully stop because...
We just stopped multiple times.
Because he kept, like, pawing and stuff and being, like, a lot.
Yeah. Do we have video of that still?
Yeah,
I don't know.
those podcasts are still up.
I should watch those. Those are cute.
They're still up.
That's really cute.
Yeah.
I like our dog.
But anyway...
Now he's 3.
Should we jump into it?
Yeah, let's do it. Your battery's low.
I mean, what else on what?
Imola.
Oh yeah, you mean my mic battery?
Yeah, your mic battery's low.
I'm trying to look at it to see that it doesn't like die.
Yeah, it's blinking.
If it stops blinking, just like let me know.
Okay, sounds good.
Because then we got probs.
Yeah. I'm not sharing my mic, just like I'm not sharing my notes.
Well,
I have 2 notes though from this entire thing, so we're gonna go off the cuff a little bit on this. I didn't come correct today. But it's all good.
So this is the Imola.
No, you have to say it correctly.
I'm not gonna say nothing.
It's Emilia Romagna. No, it's Formula One MSC Cruises Gran Premio del Made in Italy.
Such an American accent.
Dell'Emilia Romagna 2024.
Gran Premio. What?
Whatever. Everything you do sounds Spanish.
You just told me to say it correctly, and then you just said it in the most American accent.
It was really good.
We watched Imola because no one's going to say all that. Don't know, hey, change the name. F1. Jesus Christ. Fine. Such a long name. So we watched Imola. And one thing about this circuit, if we're going to get started, is that they only have one DRS zone.
Yeah.
In the circuit.
Yeah.
So passing is like not as common here, and that was kind of evident, I guess, during the race quite a bit.
It's not just that there's only one DRS, it's also that it's just not a very passable circuit overall.
Yeah.
It's just not.
But that's why having more DRS zones helps.
I feel like if you're gonna bring like these like not old, but like if you're gonna take these racetracks that are like incredibly like well known, and you're not gonna make them Formula One 2024, like by adding in DRS zones or whatever, then it's gonna be. Honestly, I thought the race was kind of boring. I'll be honest with you. The end, the last like 10 laps, I was like biting my nails, but it was a pretty boring race. And it's not, obviously nothing has changed since 2023. I don't think, other than DRS, like starting on different laps now. But it was so boring compared to.
It was.
All the other races.
It was pretty. Yeah, it was like pretty.
It was standard.
I don't want to say uneventful, but like it was kind of just like. Yeah, okay, like
I thought quali was more exciting.
Interesting happened, like really. I don't even think they had a safety car, did they?
They didn't. That was like the first time that there's never been a safety car here.
Yeah, so.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, the race itself was like, you saw some good moments here and there, but for the most part, it was kind of just like, meh, okay, cool. And the funny thing is like, I've noticed this a lot with F1 where they try to really hype up certain circuits a lot.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, da, 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 and they give them all these like fun nicknames and da, 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 and all that. Like Monza, they call it the Temple of Speed, but Monza's pretty, like it's actually a fun circuit.
No, it's fun.
And Imola is there's a lot of hype around Imola and da, 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 and all this and that. Imola, but then it's like, okay, whatever. And then the same thing, actually, it's like ironic because like Monaco is next week. And they hype Monaco up so much because it's like all this money and the glitz and the glamour, and it's like the bouginess of F1, but the actual races themselves are kind of pretty
standard,
boring.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even use the word standard anymore. Like they're pretty boring.
They are.
It's quali and then that's it.
And that Monaco's a street circuit too. So it's like, it's incredibly, I mean, quali is always interesting because, you know, Charles likes to put it in the wall, but like,
wow.
it's not, I mean, that kid is cursed in his own hometown.
Yeah,
like, he's cursed. But, like, it's one of those things where it's like they may have had, like, a great history behind them. We went to, like, we went to, like, the exhibition and such. And, like, you figure out, like, all of the history behind these, like, great Grand Prix. But you got to make it exciting in the now. And I'm not saying people have to crash. Someone asked me that once. They're like, oh, is it because, like, you didn't, like, there wasn't, like, a safety car or red flag or something like that? And I'm like, it's not about that. It's about being able to race effectively. And that's truly what I think is most important.
In terms of what, Imola?
No, but, like, in terms of circuits in general, like Imola or like Monaco, like street circuits even, like, where there's just not a lot of room to pass. Quali is interesting for that reason because it sets up the grid. But then, like, the race itself is kind of like, all right, cool. Thanks for coming. They hype it up for, like, because it's in Italy and the Tifosi and, like, okay, Ferrari's not sucking right now. But even Carlos was like, you guys, you know, like, they brought a package to this race. And he was like, I don't know what you guys were expecting. The media, like, this is not going to bring us from 0 to 60. Everyone keeps talking about the package because of what happened with McLaren and Norris. And now Piastri came with 100% of his package. But it's like, he didn't do great in qualifying. I think he was Q5, was it? Or P5? Yeah, he was P5. And Charles was P4. Good for them. Yeah. But, like, it wasn't anything monumental. Like, Verstappen and Piastri and Norris blew them out of the water, as they did during the race.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I feel like that was kind of not a letdown. I expected it after watching Formula One for the last few years.
Yeah.
Still love it.
It is what it is. And the thing is, you can't judge the whole sport just based on one race.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's the whole season. And sorry. There's some circuits, this happens every time. There's some circuits that, they are more exciting and some circuits that just aren't. And that's just how F1 goes. And, like, same with Monaco, like, it's a very, like, hyped up place. I'm sure going to the Grand Prix is super fun, like going to Monaco, but actually watching it is like, that's cool. It's very beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong.
Monaco's better, I think, than Imola.
The location is, like, a beautiful location, but in terms of, like, if that track was just there and you took all the glitz and glamour out and it was just, like, a plain track, like, in the middle of nowhere, people would be like, okay, kind of boring, right?
But, like, the other thing is like, I think they hype up Imola so much because of the history too with Senna and
especially this year.
Roland.
It's like Roland Rottenberger. I can't remember. I think that was
so, like, I mean, and Sebastian Vettel did his whole thing, and they did, like, a walk, and they, like, commemorated the moment and all of that, which is super great. And again, I understand the history behind Imola, but, like, the racing itself just wasn't, like, the most interesting thing in the world, which is fine. But I feel like quali was actually pretty interesting.
We finally saw, I mean, I'll let you kind of just go.
So Logan Sargent DNF'd, which I just am going to get this out of the way because of course he DNF'd. He doesn't finish. But Logan Sargent, the news right now, or the rumor mill going, is that Logan Sargent's going to be replaced, which I find hilarious because they're all about actually 3 races ago, Toto Wolff was like, we want to get his confidence back. Like, we want to give this kid, like, a good show of support. He's, like, an American driver, all this stuff. And then Toto's the one who is campaigning to the FIA for Kimi Antonelli, who's driving an F2 right now.
To replace him? To
drive in Formula One before he's 18. Kimi's in, like, I think he's, like, P7 or P9 right now in the championship. Like, we bring in these, like, young people who are, like, not yet ready for it, I feel like. Like, Logan Sargent did really well in F2. But so anyways, the rumor mill is that Kimi's going to replace him. And that actually they think that Imola might have been his last race.
Whose?
Logan's.
Really?
Which is wild.
Well,
they can replace him at any time because Mercedes,
but I mean, like,
junior team is Williams.
Monaco was like, what?
In 5 days.
Yeah. How's that?
Weirder things have happened. Do you remember DeVries?
Yeah.
Peace out.
I mean,
he just sucked.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know what's going. Mercedes is in a very weird place.
They're in disarray.
Yeah, like I don't understand a lot of the. There's just a lot going on there, and like I don't know what's going on. And I was talking to you about this before. Is that like you can only imagine the pressure that not only Toto Wolff as the CEO of that team, but the Mercedes brand is feeling right now.
Yeah.
Like for Ferrari, F1 is like a huge thing for their brand. I mean, since they were even established as a company, like Enzo made his priority was racing. Selling cars was just there to fund the racing. So the spirit of the team, like the whole, if they're not winning races or they're not doing well in like competitive motorsport, that's a huge hit for their brand overall. Yeah. So like for Mercedes right now, it's like they were so dominant for so long, and I would imagine that lent itself to some extent to like the success or the whole push behind their brand and what it represented to be on the top of like Formula One, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And I can only imagine what Toto Wolff is hearing. Not only is the car like trash,
not performing properly,
and they're being beaten by Red Bull,
everyone,
McLaren, and Ferrari at the moment. Yeah. Like they're faster. I don't know about constructor standings right now, but as it currently stands, like they're not being beaten by, like they're being beaten by 3 teams.
Yeah.
And to add insult to injury, your like star driver is leaving your team. So it's like you can only imagine the pressure that's on Toto right now to be like, look, the car sucks. The team's being beaten by everybody.
Yeah.
And our star driver is like leaving our team.
Yeah.
Like, what are you, like, forget turning this around now. Like, what are you going to do in the future?
They're 4th in the constructors. Yeah, they're 79 points. McLaren's got 154.
So they're being beaten by pretty much like Red Bull, Ferrari, and McLaren.
Everyone, yeah. Them. It goes Max, Charles, Sergio, Norris, Sainz, Piastri.
Currently.
Russell, Hamilton. And Fernando is only losing by 2 points to Hamilton.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but did they lose? They got second in constructors last year, right?
Yeah. So they didn't get second last year. They got third, didn't they?
Did they get third?
Because Ferrari was second. Remember, that's why Charles was pushing so hard.
Yeah. So now they're even gone further back. It looks
they this is the decline. Like the empire has fallen. It's getting wonky.
But this next driver move, to your point, like this next driver move, I think is going to be very pivotal. There's an open seat there.
Yeah.
They're going to have to figure out how to, like, if Toto Wolff doesn't figure this out by, like, if 2026 hits and they're not improved, I think that's like Mercedes just becomes like that midfield team.
I think that they are just slowly declining right now. I don't actually think that they're going to get back up to their previous standard before 2026. I do anticipate what you said, though, that they're going to drop further if they don't get a proper driver for 2025. Yeah. And it just like, it's when you make rash decisions like this, like everything kind of falls to bits. And I feel like that's actually something that Red Bull did really well. I mean, I don't like to bring up I don't know everything that happened, right, with Christian Horner and Helmut Marko and Jost and Max and whatever with Sergio, but like they seem to have figured it out. Like it's still, I know Nui's leaving, I get all of that, but like they still seem to have it figured out where they can like keep things in the right piece, like the puzzles in the right pieces. The puzzle.
Here
pieces
we go.
in the right. I'm tired. I'm tired today. They can keep the pieces together, right? And it makes sense. Yeah. And other teams, speaking of which, I find it hilarious that Albon, on the note of Williams, has signed through 2027. That is freaking insane to me.
But you don't know what is or is not going on behind the scenes in terms of development, where he sees things are. Because Albon's doing like very well, and like sometimes it's like it's a combination of like the development of the team as well as like, do you want a job in Formula One? He's still very young, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, at least if you're in there, you're in the car, you're guaranteed that you're getting paid, you're in a car, you're driving, you're getting experience.
Yeah.
Maybe several years down the road, he's like, look, I'll like hop into like a Mercedes seat or a seat that suits me better.
That makes sense. And that would actually make more sense to bring Albon into, how funny would it be if they brought Albon into, with George Russell into Mercedes? What a lineup that would be, because we had that done in Williams.
I think that would be a great.
But when you say that Albon is doing well, what do you mean? Because in the constructors, he has 0 points.
Well, no, constructors obviously not.
Or sorry, in the drivers' championship, he has 0 points.
I mean, in terms of his performance in that car, like he's done amazing things in that car. Given, obviously he's not scoring points or anything, but like where he's able to put that car, given like his teammate is like awesome.
Speaking of teammates, Yuki once again is doing better than Daniel Ricciardo. So have we agreed Daniel Ricciardo's done? He's bye-bye?
What were we talking about before? We're jumping around a little bit.
Quali.
No, who were we talking about before? The Mercedes.
We were talking about Williams and Albon.
No, before that.
Mercedes.
Yeah. So let's just wrap all that up. Yeah. So Mercedes is. Well, I forget where we were going. You just jumped to Albon. I was trying to like.
That Kimi Antonelli is being considered for this spot, which is just, I think, a little ridiculous.
Yeah. So the pressure on Toto Wolff there is probably pretty immense, and like, yeah, we were talking about how they're just gonna become like. They're headed towards just becoming a midfield team. But the point I was going to make there too is that you're also seeing, and this is save last race, because Aston Martin, what I was going to say is for them to go down, another team is probably going to have to come up. And Aston Martin also brought an upgrade to this race. Actually, they brought one of the most thorough upgrades of any team. They had an insane amount of parts. But they didn't see a lot of...
it was horrible.
Actually, I think they went in reverse. I think it slowed them down.
Yeah, Fernando didn't finish.
But... it
was horrible.
Yeah, like, for Mercedes to drop down, it's going to take another team that's going to have to pop up. And it looks like... I mean, it looked like it might be Aston Martin coming up there a little bit, but we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, you said last year they were 3rd in the championship. Right now they're 4th.
Who?
McLaren came up.
Who?
Mercedes was 3rd.
McLaren is up there.
McLaren is up. So every year they're dropping down another notch.
I'm saying for Mercedes to drop down to like the midfield, they're probably like right now 4th is not really considered midfield.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
Like midfield is kind of like
5th and below.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
it's coming.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I can only imagine the conversations that have happened.
Do you think that they're trying to get other people? Like, I don't know. Do you think that like Toto's like reached out to like people that like Sebastian Vettel or like, I don't know. I mean, I guess not Ollie Behrman, because that's like overstepping it on so many different levels, because that's like Haas. Do you understand that now? Ferrari and Haas are together? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think...
I didn't know why I didn't realize that.
I think Haas is like their...
junior team.
Yeah.
Development team.
Yeah. I don't know if it's directly that. Maybe it is. I think it is.
Because remember Charles was in Haas.
No, Charles was in Alfa Romeo.
Oh, he was in Alfa Romeo. You're
and he went to Ferrari. But I think it's because it's like their works team. They supply them their engine, right?
Maybe.
I think that has something to do with it. Maybe, I mean, if anyone out there knows, maybe let us know. But,
do you think that he's like talked to people like that though? Toto has talked to like Sebastian and like other people like about coming in?
He has.
Or do you think he just wants someone in F2, like a new driver?
I'm sure. And we mentioned this before, is like very briefly, is like, I'm sure he's talked to anyone. I'm sure he's even talked to Verstappen. I'm sure he's talked to like a decent amount of the drivers up and down the grid, or there's been some kind of like word passed here or there. He definitely talked to Carlos.
Yeah, I was going to say Carlos still doesn't have a seat, which is wild.
Anyone who's been walking in and out of the hospitality center, like you're not there... You know, they're not there just to hang out. They're there for, like, especially, like we talked about this before, Sainz walking out with his manager. Like, they're obviously having a business meeting.
Yeah, of course.
Where he's going to end up, right? It's like, it's not rumors. It's pretty, you know, this is how it works. So I'm sure Sebastian Vettel's, like, been spoken to, or they've extended him something, or maybe even asked him if he's interested in coming back. I'm sure it's happened, but... We'll see what he does. I think what Mercedes really needs is like another veteran driver. Like they do need a Sebastian Vettel in the car.
Yeah.
Again.
No, that makes sense.
So.
It was nice to see Seb again. That was cool.
Yeah. What else?
Quali was interesting.
What else we chit-chatting about?
Quali was just interesting because Piastri did really well. He was obviously Verstappen was P1, which not by a lot, by a tenth of a second, not even a full tenth. And it was Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg. Perez was P11. Not sucks for sucks. And obviously, like, Piastri didn't make it into it didn't do, like, his P2 because he and, I think, Magnussen had, like, some type of impeding. Which, whatever. I'm not even going to get into that. It's fine.
Yeah, he impeded Magnussen. But, I mean, the story of Imola is kind of that Red Bull struggled again.
Red Bull was struggling hard.
To kind of get it all together here. And then McLaren is doing McLaren tings.
Well, like, Piastri came back, right, with a full upgrade. He was, like, on it.
But in terms of the race, I mean, do you want to, like, jump right to the race? Because, like, the race was pretty standard. I mean, the start and everything was, like, pretty clean.
Really good.
People kept it, like, really, like, clean.
Yeah.
And besides that, it was pretty straightforward. Yeah. It was only, like, Max pulled away at the start. He got away. And then he had a bit of a gap to Norris, but it wasn't, like, a gap that was extending a lot. Pit stops for everyone were pretty...
Amazing. Yeah, 2.4, 2.1.
Pretty standard. No one screwed up. No one did anything.
I mean, Albon's team screwed up.
Yeah, nothing really of note really happened. And then the race kind of happened as is. And then the last, like, few minutes or the few laps of the race got kind of interesting because Norris started to gain like crazy. I wouldn't say like crazy. He started to gain very slowly on Verstappen to the point where he was within a second of him in DRS. But by the time the race ended, he wasn't. Yeah, he like wasn't able to pass him. But to end the race in second place, less than a second behind the leader, is amazing.
I mean,
that's amazing.
Only thing I'll say is like it wasn't even gradual. It was like 3 laps and he was within a second. He was shaving off time because Max was starting to struggle. Or no, he was preserving his tires. Norris started like eating away at the time, but the thing is he pushed too soon. He pushed when he still had about 8 laps left, 6 or 8 laps left. And then he went wide. No, he pushed too soon.
Oh.
Norris pushed too soon and went wide. And then he had a remainder of like 6 to 8 laps to get Verstappen, but he had already done the damage to his tires. He'd already been in dirty air for too long. He had been trying to get him for long time. Because the thing is he's within DRS, but he doesn't have DRS except for 1 straight every single lap. So when you have 8 laps left, you need to and this is what Max does really well with. He's world champion, right? He knows how to preserve his tires. He knows when to push. So he left just enough of his tires for the end defense. And then Norris did make a mistake. He went wide, and that cost him a couple of tenths of a second. And that put him just out of reach within the DRS detection zone. And after that, it was pretty clear that he would maybe be able to catch Verstappen, but passing him was going to be ridiculous. And they did this whole analysis on like battery power that was left in the car. And even though Max didn't have as much, I think it was like 30 versus like 60% or something like that, you just knew that Max had all this open air in front of him. He knows how to race effectively. And like you have to hand it to Norris for shaving as much time off as he did.
The thing is I think with Norris what's happening here is he's got the potential to beat Max. Mm-hmm. And maybe on another circuit he would. I mean, he did last race.
Yeah.
But here, I think it's because racing where he's used to racing, which is like kind of like top midfieldy, is completely different from racing in second place and trying to win a race. Because essentially, like when you're racing for first place and you're chasing, for example, you're chasing Verstappen, all of your laps have to essentially be qualifying laps.
Yeah.
And that's where Verstappen excels, is that his execution, the reason why he gets ahead and then he just pulls away from people is because he is able to, when he's in like free air and nobody's around him, he is able to put in like stellar laps. Mm-hmm. And I think Norris is starting to learn that it's like you need to just put in those like fire like clinical laps, and I think that's what he started to do to catch up to him. But he even said in an interview, he's like, had I had a few more laps, I probably would have caught him and probably would have passed him as well.
He thinks if he'd had 5 more laps, I think it was.
But that's just how a race works, right?
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying is like Max could, like, he didn't do it well in Miami, but he did it well here. He was able to make the car work even though it wasn't operating on its best performance for him.
Yeah.
And that's again, but the thing that I find so interesting is that Piastri and Norris were so comparable, and they were both able to turn the car on and perform at such a great standard. And once again, I have to bring up, Verstappen and Perez could not be farther from each other. I know that Perez was like, oh, this was a one-off, like, I don't think this dictates anything about the car's performance or my performance or whatever, but this is just another example of like when Piastri did not do well, he got P17 or something in Miami, it had nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with Magnussen. Magnussen just fully screwed that kid and he was unable to recover from it. Perez just couldn't make it through the field. And it's like Hamilton and Russell. Like I see the potential in Norris and I see the potential in Piastri, and I think that's one of the very few teams that I see such a comparable performance out of. It kind of reminds me of Hamilton and Bottas, but without like all the weirdness that went on there.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to see Piastri and Norris do so well. Piastri got in P4.
I think the longer they're in this position, because again, it's like totally different being like kind of midfield and then fighting for wins. The style of driving and everything, I think doesn't completely change, but it changes. The fundamentals do change, I think, quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like you're not worried as much about like, oh, I got to pass this person and then manage this and then keep this person behind me. It's just like you need to like get to the front and then you need to focus on putting in like stellar laps and then, you know, just being as fast. I mean, it's all about being as fast as you can, but you get what I mean. You're not really battling as much against other people. It's more about like being very, very quick.
Yeah.
And I think they will figure. Like I feel like Norris is starting to figure it out. I think Piastri is starting to figure it out quite a bit as well. And I think in a few more races, because you got to learn how to keep it clean.
Yeah.
I think that's the term right there. Is you got to keep it like super clean and you got to race. And I think you know, probably by the end of the season, I think we'll see them like winning a lot more races.
I don't think that Norris, this is his first and only win in Miami. I think that he is destined to win, especially in 2024. And Max has got to keep it super clinical because otherwise Norris is right on his tail. He's bet on his tail. Yeah. But I just find it insane because Norris finished 0.7 behind him. Leclerc, 7.9 seconds. Sure, let's call it 8. Sergio finished 55 seconds behind him.
Yeah.
And this again is just it's very interesting to me, and that's why I think Norris is so exceptional. It's not about P2 versus P8. It's about actually like the time intervals between these drivers. Like almost a full minute after Max finished the race, his teammate finished the race.
Yeah.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, there were no safety cars, and the only exciting thing I think was when Albon, like nobody put his like tire on properly or the nut wasn't proper or something like that.
That wasn't a safety car though. Or that wasn't a, with Albon, they just, I didn't even read about, to be honest, this was one of the few races that I didn't even really watch the post races much. We didn't obviously because it was kind of like whatever, but yeah, I'm wondering what happened there, but it seems like they didn't put his tire on and he had to limp back. It didn't fall off. It didn't look weird, but he, I don't know, I guess something, he got
a penalty too, though.
What?
I think the team got a penalty for it, right? Because
you're not
like
supposed to release a car.
You can't. It's an unsafe release, right?
But I don't know if they knew it was on or not on properly. I don't know.
You still get a penalty, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to read about it and figure it out.
And then I think the only other thing that was kind of disappointing is I was actually really looking forward to seeing. I mean, like I never look forward to seeing Stroll race because I just don't expect a lot out of him. But I was really looking forward to seeing how Alonso did with like the new upgrades, and it was just kind of like disappointing that he didn't do very well in qualifying or in anything else.
I don't know. Aston Martin's gonna have to figure that out. Like the thing is with upgrades is like if you have so many upgrades, doesn't it make sense to do like one thing at a time and figure it out? Instead of you slap all this stuff on the car and then you have no idea what kind of, maybe something made you like super fast and then like 3 things made you slow.
It's like strategy though, even with these packages and these releases, it's strategy. Like how, like what are you intending to improve upon? What pieces are you putting together and what are you releasing at once? And that comes down to strategy and engineering as well, you know? So it's so interesting to me.
Maybe they thought they had it all figured out and they're like, let's just slap it all on there and see what happens.
It's Lawrence's team. Of course he thought he had it figured out because he just threw hundreds of millions of dollars at it. It was like,
I mean, he's just trying to, I mean, I don't know. I still have faith in Aston Martin. Hopefully they'll do well.
You have faith in Canada. You don't have faith in Aston Martin.
Always. Forever.
No, I have faith in Aston Martin. I have faith in Fernando Alonso.
Hey, dude. What about your boy, Logan Sargent?
He's not my boy.
You know? America, you know?
Yeah,
I got faith. Hey, dude, who's doing better?
I never give him any
the
praise.
Canadian versus the American.
I just feel bad that Toto's just trying to send him on his butt.
I know, man. Let's see. I don't know. Let's see how accurate or bang on you are in the
I don't know. Reddit holes, man. Reddit holes. I'm telling you. They're so good. They're so good. But that's it. I'm just waiting for Carlos to sign a gosh darn contract.
Yeah, man. It was kind of a slow... There wasn't too much like news stuff either. The race was kind of like, okay.
I do remember reading something about how Mercedes is poaching some people off of Red Bull. And it's like, again, they're just grasping at straws, like engineers and stuff.
A couple of key engineers went from Mercedes.
Yeah, and Ferrari. Mercedes to Ferrari. Yeah.
Yeah, which I was reading something about that today.
Yeah.
I wasn't reading. I was watching like this YouTube video about it.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting. So.
It's interesting to see like how these little bits and pieces of people can even make up such big differences for like a race day. One of the things I thought that was so interesting about the exhibition, because this race was kind of like boring, was just like, you know, there was this like saying about when a driver says he wants to thank all of the men and women back at the factory and just like the gravity of that statement. They had this whole thing about how like every month before the race year starts, there's something happening in the factories, or there's some type of development happening, and it starts during the season, right? And so it's so interesting because you've got these engineers, you've got these people 3D printing, you've got these mechanics, you've got so many different people who work at these companies that put this car together for a driver. And of course, the driver matters so much, and the ability to extract all the power from it is obviously so necessary. But I just found it, like, I don't know why this specific race, I thought of that moment, because I was like, all of these pieces, all of these upgrades, lots of hands touch them before they reach the race.
Yeah.
And it's just an incredibly, like, overwhelming feeling to know how much work has gone into it. And I also feel so bad when so much work goes into it, the disappointment from all the people that touched it.
But you understand, like, to your point, you understand that so much more after going to the exhibition, right?
We are not sponsored.
No, but because, well, the whole thing is, I shouldn't say the exhibition, but seeing like Formula One parts up close like that, and seeing a car up close like that, like when they talk about the grid fins and stuff, I used to like watching it on TV. I'm like, yeah, I see you like, I'm like, I can see the wing on the front and like, okay, they added it, but when you actually see it, there are these tiny pieces that they put like all over it that are like, you know, super crucial to the airflow on the car. And then you're like, oh, now I get it. Like, this is like, and even when you see the shape of the body, you're like,
it's intentional.
Oh, like this is like
That's
very, like, it's crazy when you see it like in person and up close.
It's very nuts. Thought out. It's very intentional. It's very like methodical. Somebody thought this, enough people thought this together to make it into a structure. It's like a little piece
like this that's like on the front wing, and you're like, it's like a tiny little, and it's like that has like a sole purpose. And you know, I don't know how many, all these little tiny pieces, you don't know how many tenths like it could cost you over a race kind of thing.
And that's all like these pieces come up together, and they cost millions of dollars. And when one breaks off and you're just like, whatever.
Well, not the actual piece, but like
the entirety of like the front wing, or entirety of like this base.
Or just the repercussions of it working. It's worth millions at the end of the day.
It's
like
crazy.
How much do those little things, if you don't put them on, mean you win or lose a race or win or lose a championship, which equals like
money,
millions of dollars, right? It's
money, wind tunnel time, all of it.
Yeah.
Development for the next year. So if you get a chance and it's in your area, go to it. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was super cool.
I'm sure it's going to go to America somewhere.
Yeah,
they are obviously going to go to the States.
If you're in Canada, you should definitely go. If you're in Toronto, it's so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice to see. I can't wait for Carlos to sign a gosh darn contract. And other than that, I think it was a pretty benign race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Monaco. I'm hoping that there's some type of...
I'm just looking forward to any kind of more news that comes out. Because I think Monaco, I mean, every F1 weekend is like fun
Monaco's in 2 days.
Kind of watch. Well, they start doing like everything, right? Practice and all that. Yeah.
That's exciting. I thought for some reason we skipped this weekend. I don't know why.
Today? Tuesday?
Today's Tuesday.
Wednesday,
it's
Thursday.
in 3 days.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
So like, yeah, we'll see what
you in a couple
happens.
Days.
And we'll see you in a couple days. We'll see you next week, most likely. Right?
Yeah.
Anything else? Should we wrap this up?
Let's wrap it up.
Our dog's asleep. He always sleeps down here.
So cute.
We didn't do too long today. It was a good 30 minute. Screwed that up, you know?
30-minute.
God.
Let's have dinner.
As always, make sure you guys subscribe and follow on subscribe on Spotify, YouTube. Follow us on social media on Instagram and TikTok.
If it's allowed in your area.
Yeah, if it's not banned in your country. I don't know. I don't think we're on anything else.
If we are, tell us.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a fake account. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we will catch you guys on the next one.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I was trying to hold it as long as you. I was trying to hold it as long as you.
Jeez.
Bye.